Convenience is the name of the game with Fusion inside of Davinci Resolve. I mean, it's the all-in-one app, right? But did you know that it only uses about 56% of your computer's RAM? Or did you know that if you have Davinci Resolve Studio, you also have access to the standalone application called Fusion Studio? And that does not cap your available RAM. Today, I'm going to show you a very slick VFX Connect workflow that I've never seen demonstrated. And this is the key to the magic. This is not only going to unlock your computer's hardware potential to composite using Fusion Studio, but it also addresses challenges with how VFX Connect works right out of the box, with things like losing source timecode, resolution, and handles, or baking color into VFX shots too early. We're going to solve all those problems. If you watch until the end, you're going to be able to view your new updated comp versions from a single clip on your Davinci Resolve timeline without dealing with slow render cache or render in place. Oh, and if you edit multiple versions of your video for social media aspect ratios, maybe commercials that have shorter durations, this is going to update to your approved version in all of your timelines with a single click. So to get started with Fusion Studio, it's just going to use your same license that you have for Resolve Studio. Go to blackmagicdesign.com, and then over here we have the Support tab, and you can scroll down. There's a shortcut if you choose the Resolve and Fusion Software button. You'll see the latest compiled version that matches the latest Resolve release. So just scroll down. It's usually right behind it or underneath it, and I choose I'm on 19 beta 6 today, but just choose whatever matches the system you have, download it, and then once you open the application from your apps folder, you will be able to see under preferences, under global and default settings, we have a section here for memory, and you can say limit caching to 85% of your physical RAM. That's what I like to do. You could turn this up, but I think this is a good sweet spot to choose. Now, over in Resolve, if you did the same thing over here and went to preferences, you'll see system, memory, and GPU. I have on this system, it's an M2 Max. I have 64 gigs of RAM. It's a good system. But what happens is Resolve gets limited to 75% of what's on your system. So it gets limited to 48 gigs on this one. And then Fusion, on top of that, is going to get another 75% of that. So we're down to 36 gigabytes. Now, what this means is if you were to buy an M2 Ultra that's maxed out, it has like 192 gigs of RAM, you would only have access to 108 gigs of that. So using this workflow, you're going to be able to maximize all the power that you probably bought for your computer by just sending it over to Fusion. So what we're going to take a look at here is this footage right here. It's pretty typical. It's 3840 by 2160. And I'm editing in a project and timeline set to HD. HD is how I would suggest most people edit because you're going to get better performance, and then you just change this afterwards. To get a full res plate out of this, I need to change my timeline res, again, right click, timeline settings, to match the source plate. So I'm going to uncheck project settings and change this here to 3840 by 2160. And then what I will like to do is keep like a backup archive of the original shot before I take it into VFX Connect. And the way I do that is I select a clip, hold Option and Shift. Option makes the copy, Shift makes it so it can't go left and right. And I place that right up above. As well as I kind of like to know where my VFX shots are located in my timeline. So I'll select them and assign a color. I like to change it to orange. No reason other than I'm just used to that. And then the next thing let's pay attention to is this clip right here. There's some color applied to it, right? So the footage itself is S-Gamut3, S-Log3. Well, we need to remove that before sending it to VFX Connect, to Fusion Studio. So what I'll do is I'll select the clip, right click, and say remove attributes. And don't worry, we'll get these back later. And that's a big reason that I have this clip underneath, is to copy the attributes to it. So if I turn this on and off with D, you'll see I've removed a sizing, I've removed color. Now I need to address the issue that when you bake these clips, you don't get any options for handles in the settings. So we can just add those manually. The way I would typically do that is I would select the edge of the clip. I'm holding Option and Shift with a stylus, and then pressing, I think it's called nudge many or something like that in the settings, but Shift, comma, will take it back. And then if I select the other one, Shift period, will take it to the right. And I know this is 10 frames because of this little setting that you should be aware of. That's really cool. Under preferences, user, editing, you go down, it's under here called fast nudge length. So fast nudge, I set that to 10 frames. What that means is normally if I press comma or period, it's doing 1 frame. But if you hold down the shift, that's the many, I don't know, add on to it. So shift period, and that's doing 10 frames. So we've got a 10 frame handle on there. One little slight catch that I like to do as well is select the clip over in the inspector, apply a little bit more information about this clip. So I'm going to actually assign a shot name to this. And the reason I'm doing that, I'm going to call this one shot 10 underscore the clip name, is because if I use this same file in multiple places in a cut, I might have multiple instances, multiple VFX shots, and so I might want to name each one separately. So that's the purpose for that. As well as I think it's useful to include the color space that the shot is. So what I would do for that is I just have a cheat sheet of common gammas and gamuts that I'm working with. I would take that, so this one's going to be, let's select the clip again. And we don't need MP4 at the end. I'm just going to append the fact that this is an slog3 sgamut3 cine clip on there as well as at the end I'm putting the word comp, right? So I'll get a close look at that. So we've got the shot number, the original file name, the gamut, and then that this is a comp, and we're going to version off of that. Also, I'm going to select this over here, the shot name, copy it to my clipboard because I'm going to use this to create name in here as well. So right click, say new VFX Connect clip, and the name of the VFX clip, I'm going to match what I just had set up there. So Command V. And then as far as format goes, typically I don't see a huge need for a lot of what I'm doing to create EXR sequences, but I think your best choices are going to be EXRs set to PIZ format. That's going to be a smaller file out of here, or QuickTime is my preferred method most of the time. Is going to be ProRes 4x4, and we want to set this to a custom location. This part's important. So the custom location is going to allow us to control where we're storing this new plate. So it's going to bake out a new clip that's ProRes 4x4 in this location. And what I would suggest you do, see, this is by default, it goes to like your cache folder area and stuff, which, you know, that's no good. You want to put this with your job folder. So I'm going to my job folder for this and choosing media, video, and actually I'll do it outside of here. I'll do it in this section here. I'll call a new folder called shots. This will be VFX shots. And then inside this, I'm going to put everything for this one shot in one bundle as well. This one's going to be shot 10. And so you can see my hierarchy here. So I've got shots and then the shot for this one specific one. Click open. And then if I say open and create, so this is going to launch Fusion Studio. Let's pick and flick that into the window. Is it created a clip that has the source resolution, it has no color attached, and it has no repos. So creating the Fusion VFX clip, it's kind of like a nest, or think of it as a Fusion clip. You can say open in timeline and you can see the original clip right there. And the other thing to pay attention to is it creates a new piece of media. Remember, it was ProRes 4x4. And if you want to find out where that is, a quick way of finding the location on your computer is to right click and say find a media pool, and then you can click on here and say reveal in Finder, and it takes you to this clip that it made. But it didn't just make a clip. The clip is right here. It created this whole folder inside of the folder we had manually told it to go to. So we said go to shot 10 folder. Inside of there, it creates a folder called compositions, and this is the key to the magic, right? It creates this crazy looking ID with all these numbers, and do not change this. This is what Resolve is looking at when it wants to play this clip. Now inside of here we have two folders. One is for Fusion, and the Fusion folder has a comp folder, or a comp file. This is your script. This is what Fusion Studio is going to be using. They're tiny. They version up super easy with Command-Shift-S, and it's also where your renders will go. Your savers are going to get loaded into here. that Resolve can load. Now the other folder it creates is a folder for your plates. So if you had multiple clips, you could easily do that. They would both end up in here. And this is that rendered out plate. And if I hit Command I, you'll see it's set to ProRes 4444. But let's get into Fusion and do some magic to this clip. So within Fusion, I had it set to auto launch, but if it wasn't auto opening for you, you can always just go to the comp right here, double click that, open the file up, and get to working. So I'm going to speed this part up and just do some simple stuff, and I'll show you what it looks like right before we render. Let's say this is our first version. Now we have our media in node, which is just loaded from our source plate. But down at the end, we have our, it's like a media out. They call them savers here in Fusion Studio. And the thing to pay attention to is it's already set up, but under format, it's set up to be the same. But you might want to use the compression here to be set to the ProRes 444 HW. If you have a Mac Studio that has a hardware encoder in it, that's what I like to use. And then under the general tab for the file name, this is how you're going to control those version numbers. So this is set to 01, which is great to start. But on the next versions we do, you need to go in there and change that so that Resolve sees the new version. So to render this out, you say render down here, and then everything else should be set to do the whole frame range. You just hit start render, and it's going to render the whole composite out. We'll take a look at this folder, and you'll see there's a new comp that's been placed in there, and it has the new screen insert of that Resolve item. Now if you go to Davinci Resolve, you'll see, well, first of all, I've got this red render bar that, let's turn our playback set to no render cache, because you don't need it with these because it's already a rendered ProRes piece of media. And you can also trim this back up if you want to so that it matches the original. We can loop this and you'll see version 1 is created in there. Now what if I want all the color grades? So if I turn this off and on, you'll see I lost my color grades in the positioning. You said we were gonna not have this problem, right? Well, what you need to do is select this clip down here, hit Command C, go to this one, and it's Option V, but it's paste attributes. What do we want to paste? I want to paste like everything basically. And what that did is now we have color grades, repositioning from the inspector, all still adjustable because we did this on the source resolution. Let's say we needed to change this insert and do a different screen in here. Super simple. All you're going to do is go back to Fusion, okay, or tell your compositor to go back to Fusion and do a different screen insert. So you're going to version this out. Right now it's set to version 1. Say save version or Command Shift or Control Shift S. And what that did is it just made it version 2 automatically. If I hit save and you go back to Resolve, right click over here, we now can say we have a version 2. But we haven't actually done any work or rendered it yet. And this is a key thing. You do your rendering from Fusion for your comps. You only do this render media for creating the original plate in Resolve, so the rest of the rendering you do in Fusion. So let's make a comp 2. We'll load this into Fusion, and you can just drag clips into your node graph, your flow over here, and it will automatically load it. So one thing that I've done in this project, I like to work with the ACES transforms anytime I'm using HDR footage. I can just swap this out by connecting this new plate into here. And this node is just converting this to sRGB texture, which is how you deal with sRGB images if you want them included in the scene. There'll be a future tutorial on ACES setup for Fusion. Let's take a look at the final merge of this, and it's nowhere to be seen. It's way off over there. And I'm just positioning this on the reference frame from my planar tracker. And it probably is going to be distorted, and that's okay. The idea is you would probably, fill this with new pixels that match the aspect ratio of the original. For a tutorial today, I'm not going to show you, we're not going to go through that because I just really want to show you the workflow. Let's zoom in really close because this is a nice thing about the Fusion viewer. It's middle mouse basically with a Wacom, lets you go right into specific pixels on screen. And because I already did some of this brightness matching, it's kind of working already. This is the important key thing to pay attention to. Now with this, now we have comp 2. You do also need to go down to your saver node at the bottom, say browse, and we're going to change the name here, right? So right here, change the name to version 2. That's the file name it's going to write to when I hit render, start render. And what this just did is it made a new render file, I'm going to show you in here, and a new comp file in this nested crazy folder with version 2 appended at the bottom. Now I don't have to bring this into Resolve. Resolve knows where this is already. In fact, if you right click on the clip now, say VFX Connect, we have comp 2 available. Not just because we created a new comp file in there, but we also have a render file. So you can see I just swapped that out to version 2 and go back, and let's say we want to see version 1 again. There's the other insert. And so it's a really quick way to sort of see different versions. I'll show you again. What if we wanted a, I don't know, like a black and white version over here in Fusion? Command-Shift-S versions it up. You'll make your adjustments to any sort of color that you want to do. We can just take the saturation out of the image, and then the saver node, version this up. Okay, version 3, save, hit render here. This is going to bake a file out. sgamut3, slog3 clip. I have a sandwich here going into ACES and then back out of ACES. And now if I come over here, right click, VFX Connect, select version. Now we have a black and white version that's based off of that screen insert. The really cool thing is that this can work now in other timelines. This clip right here, I'm going to select it, hit Command C. I've got this other cut over here that's a different aspect ratio. So 1:1 of the same clip. I'm going to paste this above. So one way you can do it to really control where you're pasting to in Resolve is turn off the track selectors over here and just have the one where you want it to go to, and then hit Command V and it'll paste to that location there. The sizing obviously is not correct. So on this one, we can go to it and say, remove attributes. But let's say you already had it all sized out in this version here. You can Command C, that'll copy the attributes, and then go over here, Option V to paste attributes. I want to paste all the attributes. And now you can see this clip here is updated with all the correct framing. Pretty cool, right? And the other thing too that's good to know is, let's say we go back to version 2. You can right click and say, I want to use version 2 on everything. It updates version 2 here, but also back on this, it's updated here as well. So this is sweet because let's say we have lots and lots of timelines. You could see like maybe have a 16:9, a 9:16, a 1:1, a 4:5, a 30, a 15. But there is one small limitation, and that's timecode. If we look at our original plate that's in here, that's in this folder, not in the Fusion folder, it has no timecode. The professionals will say this is garbage. You can't use this. Sometimes you might need it, sometimes you might not. But I'm going to show you 2 ways you can get timecode inserted into future renders so that it is easier to conform later on. The first of which is, let's go to our 16:9 timeline, and what I'm going to do is make a new plate from the deliver page instead. So to do that, I'm going to just mark an in and out of the clip you want to export. I'm going to disable, you can either disable the track or the clip itself with D. So if I click on here, I can easily Command C, Command V, and let's make it orange for fun. Anytime you go and set a name over here in the inspector, the deliver page has a feature called clip name that can be really handy to export it and take the name you created right here. And by the way, this is independent of clip names that are up here. So you can have a different clip name here than in the media pool. But anyways, on the deliver page, I'm using individual clips. File name is going to be a custom name. The custom name would be the clip name, and this is a token. So one of the great things that Resolve has is the ability to use metadata as for other things here. So I'm going to use it for the custom name, and the way you get the tokens to work, you hit %sign. So it's always start with percentage, and then you've got a whole list of things you can choose from. The one I want is clip name. And that's just going to take the clip name and apply it to the file name on export. And then the video tab, they're pretty simple settings, but there's one that's going to get a lot of people caught up. So ProRes 4x4, you could do DNxHR if you're using Windows and whatnot. Source resolution, okay, this is important. But if you don't do this next step, what will happen if you choose this in source resolution and you have some sort of sizing going on over here, it's going to bake that into your render. It'll make a 4K file, but it'll have the zoom in pushed in on it. So what you need to do is at the very bottom down here under advanced settings, there's a checkbox for disable sizing and output blanking. So this is, output blanking is like the letterboxing. What this is going to do though, this sizing piece is going to remove any sizing from the edit page. So you get the original size, which is what we did the whole remove attributes for in the first step for the original plate. Now flat pass on, I set this to always on. This removes any temporary color grades that's going on in the edit page, and as well as add 10 frame handles down here. This is so we don't need to extend those heads and tails out like we did for the original creation of the VFX Connect clip. The last piece of it would be, choose a location where you want to save your plate out to. I think it's a good idea to place it somewhere inside your shots folder. It does not actually need to live inside the original plate folder, but just for organization, maybe you could put it right there, say open, add to render queue, and you can see it's taking off the color. It added the handles. I can say reveal in Finder, open the clip up, and now we have a starting time code on the file that's been baked out as our plate. And behind Resolve's back, I can take this new one that has time code in it, load it in, and swap it out from the original one. Render this out, version 4. Here, let me do something so it's obvious. So it's version 4. That's 4.4. Hit render. Start render. And this time when it renders out, it'll have the source time code from that new plate that we manually swapped out and put in there. Fusion, comp 4, and now this one, version 4, has been rendered out with the time code. Now, this can be a lot of extra work to create a new plate that has this time code information embedded. So another workflow is to actually use a set metadata timecode in Fusion to assign timecode to something that doesn't have that. Inside of Fusion itself, so let's go back to Fusion, and we'll just do a new version. So Command-Shift-S, we're up to version 5. And before I forget, anytime I change the comp version name here to version up, I like to go ahead and change this as well so I don't forget. And so let's say we're going to use this original one that has no time code. How do we get time code into this file? Well, there's a tool in here called set time code metadata. Now, what this does is it allows you to enter information over here about what the starting time code for frame 0 is. The one that comes with Fusion does not have these 23976, 2997, 5994. This is available with a free plugin from Fusion Reactor, which is Fusion Reactor is an amazing group of free plugins that people have generously created. And so the one I'm using, created by Brian Ray, called Set Timecode, and this one is it gives you the 23976, 2997. Those time codes we probably use more than don't. It doesn't come stock with Fusion, so you would need this. And if you need to know where to find Fusion Reactor and install it, go to this website, stakeunderwater.com, and it tells you everything you need to know to install it. It's super easy, and again, it's free. So time code on my footage here is 23976, so I will choose that. Load this over here, and I just need to see what's my first frame time code need to be set to, and then just add one. For some reason, it's off by one. Coming back over here, the first frame time code was 5/27/14/22. I can take this and say copy time code. I would just paste the time code into a sticky note, and then with set time code selected over here, you can enter that in. So we got 5/27/14, and again I said you got to start it up one more, and then to verify that this is actually getting time code into it, you can open the console. I'm going to clear this out, print a console, and you can see the time code of this frame 5, 27, 14, 22. So what that means, when I render this out, it should get that added to it. Comp 5, save, render, start render. We can choose VFX Connect, select version, choose 5. There's our version 5. And the nice thing about this is if I want to find that original clip again, right click, find a media pool, reveal in Finder. This takes me to the exact version that's even being used. So you can see this now has timecode embedded in the render file. Now, some people are like, why do I need timecode on my renders? If you're all in this box at the same time, like maybe you don't need it, but if you need to come back to something later on, having it's nice because you can easily conform to anything that has matching timecode. So if I wanted to conform to this clip here, instead of using this really slick version where you can say VFX Connect clip and choose whatever version you want in here, right? Oh, I want to go back to version 1 and have that populate across everyone. What if you need to actually just use the original shot here? Well, because it has timecode, what you can do is Option Shift drag a clip up, and then you can select the clip over here and say, right, this is our original plate. Get this rid of this. With that selected, you can say right click and say conform lock with media pool clip. And what that's going to try to do is going to try to match the time codes up with what's down on the timeline. And it can do that because the time codes match to the source clip. So this one here, I'm looking at just an individual clip. The one underneath is the special VFX Connect clip. Either workflows can work great. This one is really powerful though, just because you can always switch all of your timelines in your project at once to a specific version. If you found this tutorial helpful, you might want to check out my growing playlist of Fusion tutorials that should be on screen right now. I'm Chadwick. I appreciate you so much, and because there's so much more to learn, I'll see you in the next video.